Welcome to Teach Me AI, where my friends show me how to use their favorite AI tools and you get to learn along with me. I'm your host, Nick Niehaus, and on this episode, I'm going to be talking to Audra Carpenter, who's going to show us a system that she built herself using Airtable and Make.com. If you like the idea of automating some of your content production and saving yourself many hours every single week, you're absolutely going to want to stay tuned in for this one. So stick around.
You're watching Teach Me AI with host Nick Niehaus.
All right. Good morning.
Morning, Audra. Yeah, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you joining me today.
I'm excited to really get into AI and talk about where we're at today and what we want to do with it, and really how people can capitalize on the opportunities that AI is bringing business owners and service providers and everybody else that can really tap into this.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's a big reason I wanted to start doing this show is there's so many of these tools and there's so many, they're changing every day and improving and just, there's sort of unlimited opportunities. So let's get narrowed in, right? Let's figure out sort of a specific way we can apply this to our business. So what do you want to show us today?
Okay, so I have, just to set a little bit of context, I've owned a marketing agency since 2009. So I've been in the industry a long time. I started when social media just started. AI kind of feels like that new Wild West. Everybody's trying to figure it out. We're building it and selling it at the same time, which is what we did with social media back in the day. Now, a little bit of a difference is everything that we did back then was very manual. Right? We didn't have the technology yet. We were building websites using HTML. WordPress was just kind of finding its way. There were no builders. There were no any of these kind of tools. So AI is kind of the matured version of where we've kind of laid the groundwork from all these years. Now, what I really like about it is that if you were already doing marketing, or say you're in customer service or you're in sales or you're in HR, what this is it's just technology, right? And the quicker that you can learn how to use it to optimize your job in this next industrial change that we're going through, the better results you're going to get, the more competitive you're going to stay in the market. And as it was coming on, I kind of realized, hey, wait, there's something new here. We need to understand how this works. And if it can evolve into what we think it can, those that are able to lean in and learn about this can really make a difference. I mean, for me, being in the industry this long, this was the golden ticket, right? And I know a lot of people don't understand that because they don't have the history that I do. But if you can get in and really capitalize on it, then it's going to make a world of difference in your business. Now, so I leaned in when it first started, right, back to Conversion AI, and then it became Jarvis, and it was Jasper, and then OpenAI hit the market. What we all did at the beginning was tried lots of shiny tools, right? Really leaned into, oh my gosh, I can do this now. And what about this? And I can create content or social media or build websites I couldn't do before. But what we found was we didn't really get a lot of results from that. It was cool. And people were using it to be very creative, but it wasn't changing our day-to-day operations. We weren't seeing the results on the other side of it. Okay, fast forward a couple years, we're in it now. Now we can actually take it and tie it to results. Show that hours have been saved, show that revenue is being generated, show that leads are being brought in and closed. I mean, so it's changed enough that it's a serious player on the table, and that's where we're winning, right? So what I wanted to go into, and I originally had talked about showing people which Make.com is an automation tool that's similar to Jasper, a little bit more complex, or excuse me, Zapier. A little bit more complex, but definitely a force to be reckoned with once you understand how to use it. The other side of that equation is using databases like Airtable or SmartSuite or some of these other things. So from a marketing perspective, what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll say, what is a company doing? What are you doing in your business currently? What do your processes look like? without AI. Without AI. Well, I create this social media, I write this blog content, I make these phone calls, I create these lead gen pieces, whatever it is, right? Then you
Mhm.
take those pieces and you actually break them down and say, okay, I'm spending 5 hours a week creating social media content. Can I use AI to make this process better, faster, better writing, better results, better engagement, increase my follower count? Can I optimize it by using AI and cutting those hours down? So you start there first, but then you realize, okay, once I understand how to use this golden ticket that we've all been given, then how do I actually build it? And that's where we're at. I've built some just sick automations for clients. It's just been so cool to be able to say, well, I don't know, let's try it. Can we figure out how to use AI to do this,
Hmm.
to get better results, to get more consistent results, to be able to show up? Now, what I'm going to show you guys, it might feel a little overwhelming, but again, we all started kindergarten when it comes to this kind of stuff. I had to start at the beginning too. All of us did. It just depends on putting in the time and learning how to use this technology to your advantage.
Love it. Yeah. And that's,
All right.
we all have to understand, that this is new tech. There's going to be some overwhelm when we're getting into it, right? But
100%.
yeah, I love it. I mean, so I love that concept too of, just looking at what you're already doing and figuring
Hmm.
out where you can save time, where can you save effort? Where can you reduce the amount of repetitive tasks you're doing? There's all kinds of
Right.
benefits there. So yeah, let's get into it. You want me to share your screen so you can start
Please,
talking through the process? Yeah, here we
please.
go.
Now, something for you guys to remember, this is where we're at right now with technology, right? This is AI will continue to evolve. It's the worst it's going to be, right?
Right.
So it's super important to, let me go here. It's super important to lean into where we're at from a technology perspective. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Um, so it being the worst it's going to be, then we only get better from here.
Right.
Now, what you guys are looking at is something that I'm getting ready to launch. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I just want to give you kind of a high level look at what is possible when you start really digging in and thinking about the processes that happen in your business.
Hmm.
So, one of the challenges as a marketer all these years is we've never really had one system where everything can exist, right? We
Right.
have SEO, marketing's been very siloed. You have your
Yeah.
SEO, you have your social media, you have your video stuff. Everything's ran pretty independently, but you've kind of tied it together with the staff on the backside of it. But we've have schedulers, but the schedulers don't handle the blog content. I mean, it's always just been very fragmented. Now,
Right.
what AI is allowing us to do is change that conversation. Now, I've been learning just like everybody else is learning, and I've built something that I'm calling a content hub. And the goal of this is to take every single piece of, think of it like your main asset. So it could be a newsletter, it could be a YouTube video, it
Hmm.
could be a podcast, it could be a blog post. I know the screen's kind of loading slow there, but what you do is you take that main asset that you've created, but then what typically goes with it, right? Creating that piece of content is just the first step.
Right.
You go through all the lead up to create that piece. So I'm on the blog post tab here, and just to give you kind of an idea, I pick the brand asset that we're going to create the content for. Then I assign it a persona. Who's my audience that's going to be listening to this? What is their style? What are they about? What is the goal of my article? What stage is it at? When do I want to publish it? I give it keywords, primary, secondary. Anybody that writes blog content knows you're supposed to have all this when
Right.
you create content, right? Your internal links, your external links, affiliate links, if you do that. And then I
Wow.
give it a little bit extra context. So maybe I want to say, make sure it's written at the fifth grade level. Write it in Spanish, write it in French, write it for decide what other content. Then I send it into AI, and AI actually goes out and researches this content for me. Then it brings me back what we call outputs of the research that it's done. So this article was about lead generation, and then it gives me stats, it gives me sources, so I can start considering what I want to do. So now I've got the research, right? I've set up my stuff. The AI knows my brand, who my audience is, all that kind of good stuff. Then I say, okay, well, what kind of article do I want? Well, when I know who my persona is, then I know what kind of content they consume. So I said, okay, for this one, I want a how-to guide. Then I send it through, and it comes out, it writes my outline. So again, it's got all my data leading up to it.
Oh, wow.
It gives me an output of my blog post with formatting, so I don't have to redo Markdown. It gives me stats, it gives me quotes, steps. Remember, I wanted a how-to, so it's bringing in all the different kinds of stuff, along with my conclusion, along with my image.
Oh, wow.
It writes my meta description, my excerpt. It does my fact checking. So it says, here's some of the claims we made in that article. Here's how you verify that they were actual legit. Because remember, we have an issue with AI sometimes lying.
Right.
Or not lying, changing the truth.
Hallucinating, right?
There you go, hallucinating. Then it goes out to Perplexity, because Perplexity is a better fact checker, right? So it goes through and it does all that, and it actually gives me the source where it took that claim from. Then it writes a thumbnail prompt for me. Now, we know it's not as sexy as we would like it to be, but for this is the image it gave me. Then I'm almost through it. Then I actually have it create a Google Doc. And the reason why is some of us like to edit outside of an environment like this. We just want a sheet of paper.
Right.
So I'll have it link out and create a Google Doc with everything that it just ran, so you can work from then. Then you're going to upload a human edited, right? So it gave me everything I wanted. Now I want to go in and clean it up and make it sound even more like me, remove anything extra, and do my final edit to it. Once I'm done with it, then I have it added automatically to my WordPress website in draft. Now, some people can publish direct without going through that second time. I want another set of eyes before I'm going to publish.
Right.
So it publishes to WordPress, lets me know that it did it. And what it does is it actually formats the whole blog post, adds the image, adds the excerpt, and the meta description. So all of it's all there at the same time. Then I want it to write an email from that blog post to promote to my email list, saying, we have a new article, this is what it's about. You can pick, I've got different kinds of formulas in here, or prompts in here for different kinds of templates. So maybe I want to do a blog post promotion, or I want to do a blog post to a checklist. I can pick different kinds of emails that I want it to write. So once it writes the email, we go through that process. Then it tells me it's written the email, and I will go to the email tab and do my editing or whatever I want to do. Then it writes all your social media, right? And I can pick the templates that I want to use. And I've got about 85, 90 different templates, because some will make sense for different kinds of things, right?
Right.
So then it'll go through and it'll write all your social media. Then it takes that, and I go to the social media tab, and all the social media lives here. So I've got it broken up. Say I'm just looking at approved. I take my social media posts. I pick my channels I want it to go to, my brand. Then I'm going to publish them all. So I would go through and I would add my Instagram and my hashtags and my image, my Facebook, and you go through all of them. And then you schedule it, and it automatically all goes out to all the different platforms.
That's
now,
great.
Thanks. So how you do this, and you can do this with, again, any of the stuff, you can do it with your podcast. Podcast starts with a transcript. and so on and so forth. And this, you guys don't let it overwhelm you. It's just a database. Think of it like a fancy Google sheet, right? I'm filling out forms. All I did was take a process that I currently do and mapped out every single step.
Hmm.
What do you need to know for a podcast? Well, I need the file, I need the name, I need the host, I need the guest, and you just step through what each one of those look like. The secret sauce is really when you get into the prompting,
Okay.
which all these little guys here that take you through and run it takes you to a website called Make. Now, whoops, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger without. So what Make does is it runs through, Lordy, Audra, hold on. I'm trying to make it big enough so you could see it. There we go. So it runs through, we just went through the blog post one.
Right.
So this first table, what it's saying is go to Airtable, that's the software I just showed you guys. And I want you to update a record and I want you to write an outline. Now I use a tool a little bit different that actually allows me to select whatever LLM that I want to use, which is your large language models. So say for my outline, maybe I want to use ChatGPT, but
Right.
for my, let's go down here a little bit further, for my meta descriptions and excerpts and stuff, I want to use Anthropic. And then my fact check, I want to use Perplexity. So I can actually pick the model that I want to use here. So what I've done is I've made it, I want to be able to change it up. I don't want to be stuck with just OpenAI or one thing or another. So I can actually use a tool called Open Router. And Open Router is essentially a place that brings together all the different options. So I could put Gemini in there. I could use Llama, or there's hundreds of them in there, but I can switch them up based on the results that I'm getting.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
so you just run through, the different kinds of things, and then it gets you back to that output where it manually updates all this information based on this workflow.
Wow. That's amazing.
You got it all?
Yeah, I think so. Right. Yeah. So let me ask some questions here. So I guess
Please.
here's one that I think a lot of people always struggle with, which is, when you first sit down to build a system like this, I think that one of the first questions is what parts need to be AI versus what parts should be you still, right? Because I noticed there's
Right.
obviously a lot of decision making that you're doing
Yeah.
here, a lot of refining. So like, where have you sort of found that you draw the line on that? What parts do you like to trust the AI to handle versus where do you like to sort of step in and take over?
Maybe think of it like what if you take that blog post, it's not going to know what my internal links are. It's not going to know what my affiliate links are. So if it's a decision I have to make, you can't ask it what the keywords should be because it hasn't written anything yet, or it doesn't know what your pillar content looks like, or even what your website's about. So those kind of decisions come back to the business itself, right? We are making these consciously or unconsciously, we're making these decisions as we create one piece of social media for our LinkedIn profile. We know what we want to talk about. We have an idea. And everybody's kind of at that place where they're running in saying, help me write a LinkedIn post about XYZ. But we can get past that very quickly. So what I would challenge people to do is really think bigger and think of the whole process more as a system. Sit down and make a list. This is what I do for marketing. This is what I do for my sales. This is what I do for my customer onboarding. Or I've created 30 courses about marketing with multiple lessons within it in 45 days.
Wow.
And I use slides and I use Descript and voiceover. So I'm not even in these videos and the content's solid. I mean, it's super easy to do when you know what kind of content what kind of output you're trying to get. it just allowed me to do it so much faster. If I had to manually do that, forget it. I would have given up before I even got halfway through it.
Right. Yeah. That sounds like quite a bit of work. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't when you can leverage what AI can do for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so let's kind of make a maybe come up with like a really simple example of this. So I mean, I want to look at, obviously building something like Content Hub is going to take a few weeks or months of work to kind of figure out, I would imagine. But let's start with like something
No,
real
it's
simple,
yeah.
like yeah. So let's say like I want to. I don't know. let me just ask you. I don't want to propose a suggestion here. Like, what's an example of like a couple steps we could sort of take a look at and make to just take one tiny thing we're doing and see if we can automate it a little bit.
Okay, so let's take a podcast.
Sure.
So you have a process. I have a process. I have a podcast. And so what I did with that, I sat down and I wrote down, okay, what do? I send an email to a guest. I schedule a guest. I have them fill out a form. Okay, so just take those 3 steps. Automate the email, right? You can automate it. I mean, as simple as saving a template in Gmail, right?
Right.
If you have a business account, you create a template, it goes out when you connect to somebody. But I can also automate that where Gmail actually sends it out. Then they get a form, and the form is in Airtable. So I create the form once, it gets sent to them. So now when we actually record the podcast, it already has all the guest details. So you and I record a podcast together, transcript's done. Video is handled separately. This is really just about creating the content. So I take
Right.
the transcript and I send it through my system. It already knows, because you filled out that form, who you are. So it knows all your social media, it knows your website, knows your email, knows your expertise. Then it goes through the transcript and pulls out some really cool things you said. So I have it create 3 to 5 quotes from my guest. Then it creates all your social media assets. So I don't have to do any of that. Then it puts it in an email and sends it to you and says, hey, your session's getting ready to go live. Here's some social media to promote it. And all of it's already done. So just simple things like that. The setup is the work, right? And then after that, it's just running it and just really fine tuning it until you're getting the outputs that you want from the prompt. Now, is it 100%? No, the human is not going to be out of the equation yet. We're just not there. But
Right.
if you look at it this way, in the old days, we probably got up to, before AI, where it was 70% the human and probably 30% technology, right? So it was definitely better from when I started.
Sure.
We've swapped that, and now it's probably 60 or 70% technology and only 30% human. So task hasn't changed. Work hasn't changed. We still have to do the same thing. We're just going to leverage the technology a little bit more than the manual stuff that we had to do.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess like where would somebody start? Is it about, do you go to Airtable and kind of, I know you had all those columns of kind of all the
Yeah.
steps. Like is that a good mental place to kind of get started mapping out your process, or
I
where
wouldn't
would
even go
you
there
start?
yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I would start with, what do I need in my business? Do I
Okay.
need leads? Do I need revenue? Focus on what's going to help you stay in business faster, or more importantly. So typically I focus on revenue first, period.
Sure.
So then if I look at my revenue, okay, I need to make more money. I want to make more money. What am I doing in my business? Selling a widget. I need to generate more leads. I need to book more appointments. Depending on what that looks like for you, that's where you start.
Okay.
Because when you can keep revenue coming in with the assistance of a human or technology, you're going to be, the conversation changes, right? When there's money there, I can hire people. I can hire somebody like me to do it all for you. But
Right.
you've got to make sure that the revenue's there. So I would say look at that first, and then say, okay, so I know I need to generate more calls. How do I lean into AI to set that up? Is it
Got
cold,
it.
is it setting up a workflow on LinkedIn? Is that where my audience is? Where you can use technology to set up outreach messages? Is
Wow.
it, is my audience on Facebook? Is it in groups? Is it, it's all going to really be dependent on how you market your business and where your audience is. And then you find the best set of tools to do that. But I have to tell you, they're there and they are ridiculous. Almost everything I'm building, 90% of everything I've built, I'm using a large language model, right?
Mhm.
ChatGPT, Anthropic, one of them, Airtable, and Make. I am trying not to do anything on third-party tools, and here's why. OpenAI and all this software is going to keep evolving. And little by little, it's going to put those third-party companies out of business. And
Mm.
I don't want my business built on that. I want it built on something that I know is going to be around regardless of the progress that these large language companies make.
Right. Makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
so on that topic, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
there are a bunch of these companies that offer these models. Are there any that have stood out to you as kind of your go-to defaults you'd recommend people start with first? Like, is ChatGPT a good reliable one, or Anthropic, or
Yeah.
what are your thoughts there?
Well, for me, it's not just, remember, because I don't want to work in silos anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
my goal as an agency, I want to build systems. I want to build the whole dang thing into one thing. So
Right.
for me, that's my focus, right? Is finding ways to optimize systems that bigger companies are already doing. Typically, a good, successful marketing or a good, successful company probably has 3 to 5 people on their marketing team if they're doing any kind of volume, right? You got your ads people, you got your copywriters, you've got your social media person. I mean, so you got a decent sized team. Well, the goal should always be, how do I optimize that team? Because they're only getting out 20 pieces of content a week. I want to build systems where that's where this content hub comes in, because I can actually, now that it's all built in there, I can repurpose it all and put it on autopilot. So I can take those 10 pieces of content I just created for that blog post and repurpose them on every single platform. Now I can get out 100 pieces of content a week.
Wow.
So, but that's my focus, right? So, um, to go back to what you're saying, it's really just third party tools I'm not doing a lot with because the large language models are good. And, focus on, again, you're not doing anything different than you were already doing. If you send an email every week and it takes you 3 hours to get that out, how do you use AI to make that faster? Is it writing? It's automating it? Is it, where can I cut the corners to be able to knock that down? I'll give you another quick example. I do a newsletter
Mhm.
around AI. It was taking me 4 hours, 5 hours to go out and do the research, find the articles that I wanted to, then rewrite them, put them into Beehive, and then send it out, right? So it was a good half a day of work, especially as fast as AI changes. I set up an RSS feed where so say I go to Microsoft, OpenAI, TechCrunch. And so I got, say, 10 media sources that I rely on to get my information from. I set up an RSS feed that brought in all their news for the week. I set up a ChatGPT widget that read it, summarized it, and then put it in a Slack channel. So
Hmm.
now I don't have to go collect it. I tried Google Alerts. I tried all that. It was just a huge time sink,
Sure.
right? So, but now I've got the summary in a Slack channel. So now I only go in there. I read the sentence, the headline, the summary, and I can very quickly decide what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Pull out what I need, have it write a snippet, get my newsletter done in about an hour now.
Wow.
So just
Incredible.
again, it's the things that we haven't thought of yet is where our limitation is, because
Yeah.
it can do some crazy good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, obviously we gotta know how we can subscribe to this newsletter. Is it something we can share with the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. It's AI with Audra. Well, I'll share a link with you guys, but
Sure.
on social media, if you guys have any questions or want to learn more, just, for me to point you in some directions, I'm just Audra Carpenter on all the platforms. I'm on all except TikTok. I'm not on there, but the rest of them, you can find me easily.
Love it. All right. Well,
Yeah.
one sort of final question here, Audra, as we wrap up is, what looking forward, next 12
Yeah.
to 24 months or so, is there anything that you're keeping your eye on in terms of the AI ecosystem that you're excited to get your hands on?
Agents.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You know what? I've gone. I mean, there's a lot of developers, some really smart people trying to figure that out. We're not quite there yet, but agents will be the next big game changer that we'll see, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna
Yeah.
basically, as far as I understand agents, it's gonna be something that can sort of work for you, right? Go out and click on
Right.
things on the internet and handle entire
Right.
processes, and it's gonna be
Right.
awesome. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that as well. Very cool. All
Good.
right. Well, Audra, this was fascinating. Obviously, I love the Content Hub system, and I got to go check
Thanks.
out make.com now and see what I can further automate in my business. So thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. You guys, don't be afraid of it. Get out there and use this.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
powerful.
You gotta get your hands on it and just start trying things for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're watching Teach Me AI with host Nick Niehaus.